All right, welcome in, everybody. It is Wednesday. It is time for more full court press. We are back to right around even on the parlay of the day again, which means it's time to hit one. Last time we got ourselves in this situation, we had a winner. So that's what I think the boys are going to do today. Welcome in my co-host, Brian Power, Rob Veno. I'm going to get Rob in here first. Big Ten basketball back in action tonight out at the believe it's the Pinnacle Bank Center, the Vault, I think they call it. They have some sort of cool nickname out there for that building. They also have a nice home court edge there, which it looks like the market thinks is relevant because Wisconsin opened a favorite and now they're an underdog. So Wisconsin, Nebraska, a lot of red on the court tonight. How are you seeing this one?
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right, guys? To boil it down to its simplest form, you almost come up with home floor being the real edge here. Both teams shooting the basketball well. Nebraska hasn't played a road game yet, so very used to, or at least a true road game yet, so very used to being here on their home floor. Wisconsin off of a pair of home victories that looked pretty good. 3 of the last 4 have looked pretty good. The 2 top teams they played, BYU and TCU, they couldn't beat. But, these other Providence, Northwestern, Marquette, those are pretty good wins for Wisconsin. Real quick here for the Nebraska side, Fred Hoiberg mentioned as a side note that they do have Illinois coming up on the road in their first true road game in a couple of days. I don't know that comes into play here other than Nebraska will probably play even harder to get this win at home. When you're in the Big Ten, you better win your home games because the road is a difficult place. For Wisconsin, Greg Gard says, there's still a lot of things his team can do better, but what interested me as a totals guy was he said, it's the pace we play that's our constant and what keeps us going. We have a lot of weapons. And they do. Both sides have a lot of weapons here, guys. I call into question the Nebraska defense. 2 teams all season shot 40% or better against this team. Everybody else under 40%. Wisconsin has only shot less than 41 time this season. So you get a little bit of contrast there. There's a clash. When you go through Nebraska's games, it's not necessarily a who's who of teams that they kept under 40% because the 2 better ones that they played did shoot above 40. Does Wisconsin come in? Like they said, that backcourt is dynamite right now. Blackwell's playing out of his mind. They both match up well with the bigs. I could go back and forth with point and counterpoint in this game. I don't know that there's a huge edge on the boards. I don't know that there's a huge edge in ball handling. I think Nebraska might slightly be the better defensive team, guys. Fred Hoiberg has sort of instilled a little bit of defense into his team. Guard's team hasn't played that way yet, but sometimes good offense is better than unproven defense. And in my mind, Nebraska right now is unproven. I agreed with the move here on the total, which went under. 160 down to 150, generally under doesn't come out of my mouth, but it is the first conference game. I know they both play really well offensively, but I think you might see a little bit of extra attention paid to the defensive end, especially after reading Greg Gard's quote. So for me, if I had to, it would be under. I have not played this game. I just don't know exactly what to make of Nebraska yet. Their statistics look great. But again, it's not built on the firmest of foundations. So I think I would probably just take a little look toward the under and let the side go.
Here's what you need to know about Nebraska. Correct, the top 25, obviously, with the 9-0 start. I don't think this is a top 25 team in America. If they don't, I concur with Rob. I agreed with the line move. I made them a 1-point favorite. That's where they are now. I think if they don't lose here, I think they're losing over the weekend to Illinois. What this game's going to probably come down to, it's first true road game for Wisconsin. I think what it comes down to is, can Nebraska not foul? Wisconsin's excellent from the free throw line, but Nebraska is very good at not putting you there on the line. I think that ultimately, and it's a high variance statistic, obviously, but I think that is ultimately going to probably determine the outcome of this game. Can Nebraska defend without fouling? Because if they can, then they're in good shape. Obviously, if they can't, Wisconsin's going to make them pay because they're shooting it, I believe, around an 80% clip from the charity stripe, the Badgers, one of the best in the country. So that is sort of where I'm at with this game. I don't know. I actually was kind of looking maybe a little bit at an over, but it wasn't the strongest lean in the world. This was a kind of an easy pass for me now that I'm right on market with the spread.
Yeah, I was just pulling up the box score for when they most recently played. I believe, unless they had another meeting last year, because not everyone plays twice now in these big conferences. But Wisconsin blew them out by like 30. But Rink Mass didn't play in that game for Nebraska. He's obviously back and makes them a lot better. Nebraska, without a doubt, better at home. Wisconsin has only played one. I don't think they've actually played a true road game. Did someone just say that?
Yeah.
They played
a true road game.
They played BYU in Salt Lake City, which is, I guess,
essentially a true road. I mean, it's pretty close to a true road game. Yeah.
And then the TCU game was also on a neutral. They didn't shoot it well in either of those. So it's like, definitely going to be a hostile environment. I really do think if you're betting on Nebraska at this point, you're just betting on them riding the crowd to a crazy result, because I just don't think there's any way that Nebraska matches up. Like if you were to put these two teams on a neutral, like Wisconsin's just the clear better team, in my opinion. And it goes kind of to what Brian Power was saying a little bit about, Nebraska sneaks into the top 25. How legitimate is that? How long are they going to be there? So on and so forth. I think it's like fair either way. I know this was Wisconsin -2.5, flips to a slight favorite. I guess within a possession either way. I'm not going to really argue with that. If you've got Nebraska a slight favorite, fine. If you make Wisconsin a slight favorite, fine.
It's a pick'em game.
Yeah. Rob's probably onto something with the under. I don't know if Wisconsin just goes in and runs perfect offense on the road here. And if they don't, I think there's a good chance. It's an awfully big number, 157.5. So I think I'll roll with Rob on the under for this one.
Well, and again, you talk about a statistic that's quite variable, 3-point shooting in this game. These are two teams that jack up a lot of them, quite frankly.
Good point.
You're taking a look at Nebraska. They're 52% of their shots almost are coming from behind the arc. That's 10th highest rate in the country. Wisconsin's not far behind, just over 51%. Wisconsin's hit 11 or more threes 6 times. Nebraska, they've hit 10 or more 6 times. So I think, guys, if I could tell you what's going to happen in these two departments right now, I would tell you to bet your life savings on this game, but I don't know. It's going to come down to, can Nebraska defend without fouling, and who's hitting the threes? That's what it boils down to. I guess at 11 o'clock Eastern, we'll know the answer to that question. As of right now, I don't.
Crazy
11, go ahead.
About the free throw shooting, Brian, is games in this price range, 2 points, 2.5 points, generally tell you that there's going to be somebody fouling at the end of the game. It's a close game. Somebody's behind, and you get these fouls that don't, the overall statistics don't sort out what's a team that legitimately fouls or what's a team that's fouling to scramble to get back in a game. So it's real hard to tell unless you're seeing them on a nightly basis, if it's a team that just can't play man defense or whatever. Last thing I'll say here is Nebraska may have a slight edge here, guys, because Mast, the reason Adam said it, it just triggered it in my mind because I saw it this morning, shooting threes at an unreal rate for a 6'10" guy. And when you have a stretch like that can pull people away from the rim, that's a big bonus. So we'll see if that comes into play here. But home floor, like I said, we just spent, 8-9 minutes here on a game where I just come back to home floor. It's probably the only real decider in this game. We'll see if Nebraska can hang on and win again. But I don't know, that backcourt for Wisconsin offensively is really good.
Yeah. I think the home court edge is potentially significant. I mean, you're talking about a team that just cracked the top 25. I think they're on. Does Nebraska own the nation's longest win streak right now? I believe that.
I think I saw 13.
This is a big, and again, though, I mean, the crowd can't win you a game. Players got to do it themselves. My view is Nebraska is not long for having a 0 in the loss column. I would say of all, we don't have many left. That number has been dwindling We've been talking about it now for a week. It's been dwindling precipitously over the last 7 days or so. I think Miami of Ohio, who's in action elsewhere tonight, is by far the weakest undefeated team left. But then like Nebraska and Oklahoma State, you just look at Ken Palm. I don't think this is even up for debate. Nebraska and Oklahoma State are a clear level or two below the other 5 remaining undefeated teams, all of whom are legit top 10.
Yeah, it'll be a good one. Not sure I'll have action, but certainly going to be one to watch tonight. Joey Cheese in the chat, he says, just here to remind the boys that college hoops runs through Storrs, Connecticut. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. It's probably. I think we saw the national champs play last night. I don't know if it was Michigan or UConn, but they certainly look a cut above. Go ahead, BP.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't know if this person's watching right now. My guess is they're probably not, because if you were a regular watcher of the show, you would know that. I like to kid around a lot. It's how I stay sane in this industry. So last night, when Michigan just went up big on Villanova in the first half, as I am known to do, I went on Twitter.com, I believe it's now known as X, and said, the Michigan Wolverines have won the 2026 men's national championship. I thought it was a fun thing to say. And somebody's like, how could you say that? What a weird thing to tweet in December. Man, it's just what I do. Take a chill pill, brother. I don't know if Michigan's going to win it all. I know Joey Cheese took offense to it, but he was at least hip to the joke. So
you could have I mean, listen, you could pick worse teams to tweet that about than Michigan, who clearly looks like they will be in the mix, as does UConn. Both tremendous. They certainly look like 1-2 to me right now. I don't care what the rankings say. Those look like the 2 best teams. And if BYU plays like they did in the second half, they would probably be in the mix as well.
That was a hell of a game. That was a hell of a second half, man, last night.
And a good. I think it was a good look for UConn to have Florida come out second half storming the way they did and take the lead away, timeout, and then Danny Hurley's team gets it back together. Guys, in Michigan, I know after Thanksgiving, I said it, they look like the best team, but we read that Dusty May quote yesterday here. And he just said, if we make shots, it's just a matter of how much we're going to win by. That was my only – there's 1 and 2 in college hoop yesterday. The winner was the Michigan team total over. And unlike you, Bri, when I see stuff like that going on in the Michigan game, I immediately run to open up more apps and see if I can get in on more Michigan team total. Although they were scoring so fast that the in-game got way too high, and you have to back off a little bit. But that team scores at will. And UConn 1 through 9, I'll say it again, that team, because every single position 1 through 5 has depth and quality depth. Danny Hurley doesn't have to be afraid to put anybody in the game at this point. Just a really good squad. And is Joey Cheese a Connecticut native? I mean, it's nice to find another Connecticut native on board here.
I told him last night, he's not a homer. It's not his fault. He was born in the basketball capital of the world. He just, it is what it is.
Not New Britain.
Hard hitting
New Britain.
Yeah. So 1 3-point variance game to another. Let's go to Garth. Let's talk about Western Kentucky and Marshall. I have opinions on both the side and total here. I'm going to throw them out quick and let you guys either talk me onto or off of one, because Brian Power and I got to see this Marshall team a couple weeks ago. I told him then I was high on Marshall. I still really like this team, but they've gone cold the last couple of games. They came out of the gate hitting everything this year, shooting the 3 extremely well. Last couple games have not shot it as well, although I will point out they had that Wilmington game sort of they were very, very close to what I would call a signature win for them at Wilmington, and Wilmington stole it like right at the end of the game. But if you look at the last 3 games, they just have not shot the ball well at all, and they take a ton of threes. Now they're back on their home court against a Western Kentucky team that's really impressed me. They played in, I believe, the Atlantis tournament over Thanksgiving weekend, and I would argue that they were the most impressive team in that tournament in terms of took South Florida to OT. I believe they knocked off Wichita State, and I want to say they covered against Vandy. I'm going off memory here, but I think they had a very good a tournament against the spread, if I remember correctly. And again, that South Florida game, they pretty much had won. Reason I bring that up is they can score as well. And the only thing stopping them from scoring at will in this game is going to be Matthew Van Komen. I still have the image of Brian Power standing next to him and looking up and being like, who is this? 7'4", great rim defender, but he's not like jacked like Brian Power is, though. You know what I mean? He's not super big. He's going to guard the rim, but can he keep these athletes out of the paint that Western Kentucky has? So I kind of think this one goes over. If Marshall starts hitting threes, I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game. BP, do you want to chime in? That's your boy, Matthew Van Komen. You two.
Marshall's a desperate team, obviously, here. Playing at home off 3 consecutive losses, laying a short number. That's something I'm interested in right there. You mentioned Western Kentucky's run at the pay window, so to speak. They'd covered 5 straight games before failing to cover on Saturday as a 12-point favorite, just snuck by Evansville by 1. To me, the spot screams the Thundering Herd. This was not a game that was going to originally be on my card, I'll be honest with you. I'll throw it to Rob, and then on the cut, then after he's done, I'll let you know where I kind of made this spread here for this game, because, man, that is a spot that I kind of traditionally like to play here on Marshall.
Well, guys, let's start. First of all, Adam, I'm never going to talk you off of a game like this, a matchup like this going over. You won't hear that from me. It shapes up as an over contest. What's so impressive about Western Kentucky, and I think when you watch them, you don't get the full idea of it until you look at overall statistics and see that they're not that strong of a shooting team in either regard. Yet they score like crazy off of their pace. They don't hold the basketball long. I always talk about average time of possession. Both of these teams are quick. And the Western Kentucky trio of teams in a row there, the Vanderbilt, South Florida, Wichita State game. First of all, to play Vanderbilt to 83-78 after what we've seen of Vanderbilt so far this year is ultra impressive. South Florida also is a team that wants to get up and down, that they hung right with 97-91. So to me, there's a little bit of extra push towards Western Kentucky just based off of schedule and how they played tougher teams. Marshall hasn't really played as tough of a schedule. However, they do shoot the ball better. It's going to be a fast-paced game. I went back at them just as you were talking, just to see what their three-point shooting was last game. It was miserable, 6 of 24, but from 2, they were awesome. So if any threes fall, you're going to get even more points than what they scored last game. To me, this seems a little bit low, guys. It looks like 85 aside isn't hard to come by here. 85 aside puts you at 170. And we're looking at 160, what is it, 62 or 63, I think I saw. So I would be on over rather than try to pick a side in this game. But I'd keep my eye on Western Kentucky remainder of the season here, because if they continue the rate they're going and sort of run roughshod through Conference USA, they're going to be one of those tournament teams at the end where, you know, when the Selection Sunday comes up and everybody, Western Kentucky, like they've been watching them all season long, they're going to gravitate to this team. And I think right now, pretty good time to gravitate towards them as far as either team total or full game total. I would look WKU.
So I just ran the number. I have it as a pick 'em, actually, this game. So, but you know, Marshall, I think it's because the spot, you know, that's why you see him as a slight favorite here. You know, Bayou in the chat, he brought up some very, very astute points, I thought. Number one, Marshall been very good in Huntington the last few years. Number two, these teams used to be conference rivals. You know, you look at the head-to-head history, there's quite a bit of it because they used to be conference rivals. Adding, not like Marshall needs any motivation playing at home, being off 3 straight losses. I doubt anyone on the roster remembers or cares about this, but they have lost 8 straight times to Western Kentucky. And you know me, Trigg, that makes me only want to take the Marshall side even more. So Marshall is a contender. If you don't do it, Trigg, they may be my leg for the parlay here. Certainly, I think the chat would enjoy that more than me telling them to take Fairleigh Dickinson again tonight, which is also a contender for me.
You know, plus real quick, Brian, that Conference USA history is under D'Antoni for Marshall. Again, and not that that's a huge, because the style was the same. D'Antoni might have played faster. I'm not quite sure.
Yes,
and
for sure.
And maybe a little less defense.
He definitely did.
Yeah, there's a little bit of difference there.
So something I've noticed Marshall doing a lot more this year, and it's been somewhat to accommodate the 7-4 Van Komen, is they play a lot more zone, because he plays so much better in his zone. It's what Elon did last year with him and that's Elon ended up being much better last year than they were in any year prior, because if he can play a zone, he doesn't have to really leave the paint, and he doesn't have to move around as much. So that's a couple things are gonna happen here. Like, they're going to try to play zone, but Western Kentucky is going to make a point to get this thing down the floor, because they do not want Marshall to set that zone up. Okay. And the other thing that's going to happen is, like you were saying, Rob, they don't shoot the three particularly well, but they're also, Western Kentucky's not a team that's just going to jack up threes. Like, they're going to try to draw contact. They want to get into the lane. Like, they have like athletes that are probably bigger and stronger than Marshall's players. So it's like, a lot of things can go sideways here, which is kind of what's kept me off this one so far. Van Komen gets into foul trouble, changes the game completely. Western Kentucky didn't play great last time out. I feel like they already had their lull. They barely beat Evansville as like a 12.5-point favorite. So that was, in my opinion, their sort of like scare, if you will, off of the big big performance they had in Atlantis. I think this is a game of the night. I don't really like, I lean Marshall because of the spot, but for me, like, it would be the over. I think you're going to see him ripping up and down the floor. Marshall's going to just jack up threes, and they're so due to go in for them.
Yeah, one more quick point. One of the sharper places around, one of the more well-known sharper places, has already moved to 2 in this game. So Marshall is taking money.
Yeah, Adam, real quick, I'm just going to reiterate something you said. You might have saw my hand go up in the air when you said it, but I should have said it. I don't know. I get so many things running through this head of mine, I forget. But when you have a 7-4 playing an extreme tempo team, that's exactly what you do. You don't allow them to set that zone up. You take the ball, you push, you would get that 7-4 on the bench because he's winded. Now, he plays for a team that plays with pace. So you would think conditioning might not be that big of a problem for him. But when you get out on the floor against these teams, again, that play extreme tempo, it's tough for the 7-4 to keep up, which leads to points for the Western Kentucky side in this case, or at least opportunity for points without being defended by a 7-4. And on the other end, I mean, the second chance opportunities for a 7-4, Marshall comes down, also add to the total here. So when I see stuff like that as a totals player, I generally lean toward over, and it's just another point to why you should probably be looking at the over. I would be surprised if this thing goes up during the day.
BP, are you going to do it is the question.
TBD.
You want to TBD.
TBD.
Okay, let's move on. We got another donation. Very much appreciated. This is Mad Max. And Mad Max wants to go back to the Big Ten, more conference play. He says Minnesota's coming off of an upset win at home, and Purdue is coming off of a really bad loss to Iowa State. Is this a good bounce back spot for Purdue? Brian Power, I'm going to go to you to start this one off. I don't know it was a bad loss for Purdue. It was an ugly loss the way it happened. But certainly losing to Iowa State is not a bad loss. It was just shocking the way it happened at home and by the margin it did. But Iowa State just go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what Max was kind of referring to. I mean, yeah, losing. There's no shame in losing to Iowa State, one of the absolute 4 best teams in the country right now. It's just that getting run out of your own gym. I think that was like their worst loss at Mackey in forever, if memory. I don't have. I had seen some tweet while it was going on that this was like the worst loss they'd suffered in Mackey in some time. Yeah, on paper it sets up as a bounce back spot for Purdue, right? I mean, especially, there's 2 sides of the coin here. Not only is Purdue off the blowout loss, but Minnesota off a win. The only thing, I mean, obviously the point spread's the great equalizer. Number one, was talking to somebody about this game actually last night when the lines came out, and we were joking, maybe it's just a spot where you take Purdue team total over. My concern there is the pace of this game, Rob Veno, figures to be very, very slow. So I don't know how much I want to be investing in overs because I don't know if the possessions are going to be there. My gut tells me Purdue maybe comes out for blood, but maybe they don't. It's the holiday season. Maybe, they're back home and they're thinking about their girlfriends, thinking about buying Christmas gifts, and they're not all, it's a logical thing for us to come up here on Full Court Press and say, right, they're going to come out motivated. They've got to be pissed off. I don't know if I haven't spoken to them, to be honest with you. So I wouldn't play Minnesota. I'll tell you that much in this game.
Yeah, this thing, you know what, guys? Let's just ring the bell because I don't have the reservations that Brian has. This game sets up right in my wheelhouse for a Purdue team total over. I think, let me just say, I thought I saw 80.5, guys. I'm looking now, and it looks like 81.5 over minus 12 cents consensus here. But for all the reasons you're laying out here, the tempo of the game, again, I'll just say in my mind, or the way I operate over here in this home office, is that if you're an efficient offensive team, to me, your pace doesn't matter. If you're coming down and scoring points per possession, which when you look at Minnesota, now this is the side you worry about, right? Can Minnesota slow the game down enough on Purdue's home floor in Mackey? Probably not. Is Minnesota good enough defensively to hold Purdue under 81.5 if Purdue's PO'd and making shots tonight? Probably not. But I'll just give some examples. They gave up 86 to Santa Clara, not an especially fast team. They gave up 77 to San Francisco, not an especially fast team. They gave up 83 to Missouri, middle of the road as far as pace is concerned so far this season, average tempo. So that doesn't really bother me. Purdue's team full of sharpshooters and their rebounding. I think Nico Medved, from what I've seen, and it was a big win against Indiana. We saw Indiana come out pissed off last night and absolutely destroy Penn State. But I still think Nico Medved's team has issues. Valhalla down low hasn't been available for a while. And to the point of the loss by Purdue the other day, Taman Lipsey came back for that game. He hadn't played 3 games prior. And that's the difference in the Iowa State team when Lipsey's on the floor. So for me, guys, it could be a simpleton way of handicapping, but simpleton ways get paid too. And a lot of times when I see this type of situation set up, I want to be on the home team. That's the better team. That's a really, really terrific offensive team to get maybe to 83, 84 points here. So I'm going to use that as my leg of the teaser, by the way, guys. Just like I said, ring the bell. It fits right into the wheelhouse. I've played it already. Again, Adam, it's a client play. So for those who are looking to purchase a different one today. You don't want to purchase that one. That's your I won't call it a reward, because if it goes down in flames, then it's not any reward. But for watching the show, you get a client play for free.
Just real quick, I found the stat that I was thinking. Oh, Trigg, you're muted. I'll use the opportunity to get
what's the number on that again?
Showing 81.5 with normal juice. It's 12 cents is a consensus number.
Yeah. The stat I was thinking of that I knew I'd read and couldn't remember, guys, is this: Purdue, the loss to Iowa State, the largest home loss by an AP number 1 team in the AP poll era. At least actually it tied the record margin set by UConn back in '95 against Nova. So it certainly was. I mean, again, losing to Iowa State, Trigg, just to take it back to the beginning, there's no shame in losing to the Cyclones, but you're the number 1 team in the country. You're not supposed to lose by 23 points at home to anybody. So maybe they will come out pretty pissed.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to add on this one. I do see, Bayou brings up in the chat, it's a good point. Like, Minnesota's still potentially shorthanded here, which doesn't help them. I thought the Iowa State Purdue game was just Iowa State played awesome. I mean, you just have to tip your cap there. They played an incredible game. They made every shot. So I don't even think that it's I'm sure Purdue's not thrilled that they got run off their own court, but I don't think it's I didn't lower my rating on Purdue because they got slammed by what probably will be a top 5 team for most of the year. Remember, Lipsey was out for a little while before that game. As Rob said, he came back. I mean, that's just Iowa State figured out when he was out that they've got another like young player that's like almost just as good. It's crazy how talented that team is this year. So yeah, I could see Purdue being a little pissed off, and I made it like 22. So the opener of 19 was probably a good bet, and maybe still some value there on Purdue.
And remember, Minnesota had not been a good team to bet on prior to the upset of India. They, I believe, failed to cover 6 or 7 in a row. Wasn't a team you wanted to invest in.
And real quick, guys, I didn't go to the full quotes on this game, but Matt Painter actually pushed me over the edge here. He was very, very upset with the energy level of the team, losing a ton of 50-50 balls. And he basically says, I'll give you one last quote. Your constants in basketball are running, rebounding, and defending. Those are the constants. I didn't say a word about our offense after the game. We win games playing through our defense, the creation of offense. So Matt Painter obviously criticizing the energy of the team. I could see Mackey being a high energy arena tonight.
All right. Since I know someone's going to ask about it, I'm just going to go to this game now, and it will be my leg of the parlay as well. And if you watch this on demand, just fire in a 2-teamer. I am playing the day game. It's a noon tip. Norfolk State Baylor. I took 27.5 with Norfolk State in this spot. I played this game last year, cashed my ticket in this same game. They actually played a early tip last year in Waco. This must be a thing they've agreed upon, a multi-year thing. I think it's a kids' day of sorts with the early tip. So probably a bunch of people in the crowd waiting for 67 points to be scored. I would imagine that's what the theme of the kids' yes. days have been. But
that's what they do.
This was a good matchup for Norfolk State last year. For a long period of that game, they led for 15 minutes. They really like that score last year. The 25-point final is quite deceiving. Baylor landed a pretty big knockout punch to get to 25 and still didn't cover. And I kind of like, so a couple things. One, with Norfolk State, you always know what you're going to get. Robert Jones has been there forever. It's the same team every year. They're always a veteran team. He's able to sort of like go pluck guys from other from usually from bad programs. And I think the selling point is, hey, come play at Norfolk State for a year or two. You'll probably go to the NCAA tournament at some point, right? Because like they're always going to be 1 or 2 in the MEAC. That's kind of the same thing this year. So he's got veteran team. He's got guys that can score. Baylor's horrific defensively. Like when you're talking 27 points, if you can run a little bit of offense and have some success on offense, which Norfolk State should have here, and they had last year when they played a Baylor team that was probably better defensively than this one has shown so far this year, you're probably going to have a pretty good chance to cover 27.5. And also, if you play the full 40 minutes, like this Norfolk State team tends to do that as a big dog. They've already had some success as a pretty big underdog this year. Most recently, they had James Madison beat. I mean, that came down to like the final possession. That was a good result for them. I think last year they also, so not only did they cover at Baylor, I believe they covered against Tennessee. So they have had success in this big underdog role. Earlier this year against Towson, they covered the 13.5. Recently they went out to Laramie, covered 15.5 against Wyoming. They really don't give up. Like, it's a veteran team. They play the whole game, and they're going to zone their teams. They're just going to sit in this zone type defense, which has been pretty good for them. So Baylor's going to have to shoot it well, which they can. But again, like, I just don't trust Baylor enough to play 40 minutes of basketball that they would need to play to win a game by 28 points. It's a huge ask. And so for that reason, I took 27.5, Norfolk State, 3% client play. So if you want to run and hide, if you want no part of that, I understand, because I have not had a great start to the season, but shots are going to start falling at some point for your boy. And I think they do this afternoon. So
yeah, I mean, I was going to say, if anyone caught just, you don't step back. Yeah. Last night, the Buffalo UMBC was among the most stunning things I've ever witnessed, not just on a basketball court, but quite frankly, in 45 years on planet Earth, what transpired over the last minute of that game. I don't know if I can name five more shocking things than the last 60 seconds of that basketball game. People can Google that. We don't need to recap the bloody and gory details of it if they want. So I'll say one thing about Norfolk. They want you to shoot. They force you to shoot a lot of threes. They'll give up a high volume, but they're number 6 in the country defending. Opponents are not hitting a high mark against them. Obviously, you're talking about a game with a large point spread. Baylor would need to hit threes to cover this number. And Norfolk State's defense, how they've defended the arc thus far in the season, says that Baylor will probably not be able to hit enough to cover this large number.
It's quite the lull in the schedule for Baylor, isn't it, guys? I mean, Norfolk, Alcorn, Southern U, and before the Memphis game, Sacramento State. How do you get up for all of those games? To Adam's point about taking 27.5, and there's an old adage, if you can't play defense, if we can't trust you to get stops, how can we trust you to lay double digits? And 27.5 is far more than just your normal double digits.
Yeah, I mean, again, you've got, I believe 9 days off after this game for Baylor. And it's like, this is, to me, is not the same as like Texas the other night, where it's like Sean Miller was just ripping them. And Rob ended up being right about that whole Texas spot and whatnot. I kind of think Baylor's going to go out and get the job done. Just go probably just do enough to win this game, maybe win this game by 15, 20 points. Then they get 10 days off. They kind of need it, in my opinion. This looks like a team, they really didn't look great in the second half of that Memphis game. I feel like they need the break. They're probably going to go out, do what they got to do to win this game, and then, reset. And they come back in 9 days for kind of another one of these cupcake bye game type things. So yeah, I just don't think you're going to get a complete enough points, complete enough performance to win a game by 28 points. So 3% play for me, Norfolk State plus 27.5. And for my parlay, because it looks like it's moved a tiny bit, you can still get a 27.5 at a couple of books. Looks like 27 a lot of places, so we'll call it 27 for the parlay.
Should I just close out the parlay right now? I mean,
if you want to.
It's a game we talk. I'm gonna go back to what we talked about. I'm gonna go with Marshall. Let's put Marshall on the money line though. Trigg, we are throwing this in a 3-team parlay after all. So Marshall on the money line against
minus 125 or something like that.
We are getting call it minus 130.
All right. We'll recap that again at the end of the show. Still plenty of time left. So let's get back into the chat here. See if we can find a couple more games to talk about. This is an interesting one. I'll go to Rob, but I'll set this one up. Steve Duke says, does Fresno State look good against Northridge tonight? So a couple things here. One, I would want to know. So I like this Northridge team a lot, and I actually think this is a pretty good matchup for them. But Josh O'Garo didn't play. He was the guy last time when we had Jordan Alexander on the show last Thursday. He's kind of our Big West. He's my Big West guy. That's who I ask for Big West stuff. And part of the reason I really like Northridge this year was they brought in a guy from Texas State who, that's another team I follow pretty closely that I really like in Josh O'Garo, who I think has been Northridge's best player on both ends of the floor so far this year. He did not play their last game. So that to me is very concerning. They lost by 14 to Cal Irvine, and I would not want to bet Northridge without him. So for me, that's the only thing keeping me off Northridge, because if he was in and I knew they were full strength, I would love them in this spot against a Fresno State team that I don't think is going to defend them particularly well. This Northridge team can run some offense. They have a great offensive scheme, and they get to the rim. I think they're a sleeper in their conference this year. So the only thing holding me off Cal Northridge in this spot is if O'Garo's playing or not. Rob, that's you're up late with me watching these West Coast games. Anything in Fresno Northridge for you?
Well, I think I would have to take what on this show we call the ass end of the line at this point. But the last time when Jordan was on, that was my part of the parlay, was the Cal State Northridge team total in that game. They racked up to 87 points in that contest. And like you say, and again, where Northridge is concerned, there's no shame in losing to Irvine at any point. In fact, I think Jordan happened to be extremely high on Irvine this season overall, and that night in particular too. But it's got to be an overplay for me with Northridge. It's the way I look at them. And when you try to play overs in this type of territory, which has now climbed all the way to 160, 154, all the way to 160, a 6-point move in this game. But what you're looking for is you try to find a team, identify a team such as Northridge that's a really good offensive team with not a lot of defense, facing a team that can play a lot of offense and that you think they could score. It's again, the matchups here kind of dictate what I think is going to happen. Would have much preferred 154, obviously. And the first inclination, guys, at least from me, was when I saw 154 to 160, I thought maybe the health of Cal State Northridge was going to be whole tonight. But you see the line move toward Fresno State, which indicates maybe not, just points back and forth. It's the way I see it. I think you can look at Northridge that way for the majority of the season. Fresno State, years past under Rodney Terry and subsequent years beyond Rodney Terry, more of a methodical style team, not known for offense, more of a grinding type defensive team. Not that way this year. So I think there's still enough room here. Maybe this game finds its way to the low 160s, 62, 63. You're still able to make a play here, I think, on the total going over.
Rob, I'll tell you what, if Ogaro is out, I think that hurts Northridge more on the defensive end than like I would almost say that like would be a positive to the over. Like I think I'll buy you talking about Larry Hughes Jr. or Larry Hughes II. He goes by that. Of course, if you're our age, you remember Daddy was at St. Louis, absolute baller. I think he was in the NBA for like a long time.
Played for the Cavs. He was the Cavs' big mid-season acquisition the first time LeBron was here. He didn't really pan out that well.
Yeah, he was a stud, and his son is awesome. He's their scorer. So like I'll kind of agree with Bayou. I don't think Northridge is going to have a hard time scoring. Like this really sets up the way they get up and down and get to the rim. They should score at will here on Fresno. Ogaro being out would hurt them on the boards. I mean, he's been a monster, like getting 10, 11 rebounds a game for them. And then, of course, he's been very good on the defensive end. I may kind of track this one throughout the day, but like I would say there's a point where I may play back like no matter what. Like if this gets to like Northridge +2, because it opened Northridge -2. And my guess is Fresno's taking some money because they think Ogaro might play. I think if I was going to get a bucket here with Northridge, I might bet it either way. So I do a pretty strong lean to Northridge, but not something I've bet yet. Sorry, BP. Were you going to add something there?
I actually have nothing on this game, believe it or not. One of the few that
I'll take a quick second, Adam. We give a lot of game advice here, but just from a handicapping angle, I'm going to just go back to something what you just said and add a little context to it. But I'll bring the NBA into it. You know, there was a game the other night. I do a 1:30 show with Ski Profit here on WagerTalk TV. And it was a game with the Oklahoma City Thunder. We're missing Lou Dort, Isaiah Hartenstein, Alex Caruso. And people will look at that as 3-star players for OKC and immediately think that you're supposed to bet the game under. But to your point, Adam, when you remove defensive-minded players from the game, it adds to the other team's potential to score. And so to you saying that Fresno might be even easier for them to score here, absolutely it is. You got to take into context who the players are, what their strengths are. I bet enough totals to know. So that's a good point taken where Fresno is concerned, where they should have it a little bit easier. Not that it's difficult to score on Northridge anyway, but even a little bit easier if in fact Ogara can't play. If he does, just adds to their offense. So I think it's a win-win situation.
Yeah, I mean, look at some of Northridge's squad. I mean, that North Dakota team does not run very good offense. That was a 93-85 game. Troy 94-85 against Northridge. They played they dropped 87 on Bakersfield, who like their whole MO is to like not let you play fast. And, they just still dropped 87. So it could be I think you're probably going to get points here either way. All right. Titan CT, this is a good one. This is one I want to talk about. He says, any thoughts on VCU in New Mexico? Well, my first thought, Brian Power, was interesting spot here for VCU. New Mexico midweek trip all the way out to Richmond, Virginia. Believe this is their return game for last year. So I've noticed some teams doing this, like teams that have a hard time in like scheduling good opponents at home are almost like, hey, we'll play you this year, you play us next year. So that's kind of what's going on here. VCU went out and played at the Pit last year, and now they got to return the favor. New Mexico's got to return the favor and play at Siegel Center, which is, of course, as we know, not an easy place to go win a basketball game. Also, not the best matchup for VCU, or I'm sorry, for New Mexico here. Do you want to lay it with the Rams, Ryan Power?
That was actually my initial thought. Another game I talked about somebody last night when the lines were opening. New Mexico surprised me last time out against Santa Clara, putting up as many points as they did. I think they finished close to 100, if memory serves. Yeah, 90. That's 3 straight games now. The Lobos have finished north of 90. Now, one of those opponents was a non-board team, so that doesn't really mean a whole heck of a lot. But I don't know. Do I really want to lay? Like, I think odds makers have this one kind of right, Trigg. Where it's at. I know people don't want to hear that. They want to hear, oh, I'm off on this number and I'm seeing value. I'm not seeing a ton of value in this number. I do think it is a tough matchup for New Mexico, but I think it's priced adequately. I started looking at the total back and forth. You look right now, looking at the odds screen, the over's taking money. It continues to take money. It's been bet up a few points. I'll let Rob handle that because I really could not make I really didn't have a strong conviction over or under either. So there you go.
Yeah, guys, I'll just, I guess, take a slightly different approach here. My initial reaction when I saw 10 points was to take New Mexico, but the thing that stopped me was, as Adam mentioned, Albuquerque into Richmond. It's a weird trip for a team, but it's a return to a payback for scheduling a home and home. That's fine. New Mexico, obviously, first year, Eric Olin trying to climb out from under Richard Pitino's teams, but they seem to be handling it pretty well right now. Brian, you mentioned the amount of scoring that they're doing, not against the best competition. But when you think of New Mexico and VCU, you kind of think of the same exact style. And VCU is doing the same thing here, adjusting to Phil Martelli for the first time. The one thing you want to do, if you play VCU or you play New Mexico, you don't want to be a team that turns the ball over, period. They're going to come at you. If you can't handle a basketball, you're in big trouble. That's when those VCU 10-12-0 spurts happen, when New Mexico's 10-12-0 spurts happen. Both of these teams fairly capable of taking the ball away, but I think VCU's ball handling has been a little looser. It could be because they played a bit tougher schedule. I know Mississippi State's not been very good this year, but New Mexico did did beat them. I don't know. I thought it's two teams kind of on the same course as we speak, kind of in the same area as we speak, as far as trying to ascend to what they want to be. And 10 points seem like a lot. It's come down to 9.5. Again, the trip, that's the difficult part for me. Will New Mexico just go into this building and wilt? I'm not sure. Look, I think they've got enough seasoned personnel on that team to not do so. So we'll see. But if it were me, I'd be on the underdog here, plus 9.5. Not that VCU can't win it, but I just don't think New Mexico's style feeds into Virginia Commonwealth's way of scoring, which under Martelli is, what it was under Shaka Smart. It's kind of the VCU way for the last 20 years. So I would try the underdog here.
Something to monitor with VCU also, Santa Clara jacked up 44 threes against New Mexico. That's a lot.
Couldn't make one.
Yeah, they could, but that's a lot of attempts.
Yeah.
That's a lot of attempts, obviously, 44, even by the modern standards. So let's see what VC, again, it's one of those things, but can't guarantee what's going to happen right now at 11 in the morning. We'll know when after the game tips, but can VCU make New Mexico pay? What's their volume look like from behind the arc, and are they hitting them? I think ultimately that determines whether or not they cover the spread.
Yeah, I lean, or my number sort of leans to New Mexico a tiny bit. My brain says don't do that on the road at VCU. It's a weird spot. It's midweek. VCU runs teams out of this building, especially teams that are not really accustomed to playing there. And then the last thing, I'm worried New Mexico is a little bit overvalued from that last result because Santa Clara, like they had a couple guys out or banged up. I can't remember if they played or not, but they were going into that game with like 2 or 3 of their starters, like nursing injuries. And their game plan was, let's just hoist up as many threes as possible. And I think 2 of them went in. So it was like it was just like a total rout that I think was more Santa Clara just being banged up and not showing up than it was like New Mexico being this great team. But it's that's probably one of the more interesting games tonight, BP. What were you going to add something?
For sure. I was going to just quickly mention another game. I know it's not in our chat, but it's a game that I want to mention, and I happen to have
All right, so take it.
I happen to be one of the hosts and have a live microphone. Funny how that works. Miami of Ohio versus UNC Asheville is a game that I looked at. Miami of Ohio is still undefeated. I don't think Miami of Ohio is going to stay undefeated much longer, Trigg. I really want to bet UNC Asheville this game, but very curious line move, guys, as we scroll down to the extra board. Miami, Ohio is up to 5.5. I was talking to Trigg before we went live. I was trying to figure out why that is, why we're betting the road team so heavily in that. I'm going to tell you something right now. If Miami of Ohio, guys, covers this spread tonight in Asheville, then Miami of Ohio's next opponent on Saturday, Eastern Kentucky, will absolutely be on my card Saturday. I will tell you that. I will absolutely, because that's another road game for the Red Hawks. So this is a game that I don't know if I will be betting Miami versus UNC Asheville, but I will certainly be monitoring it. And if Miami covers the number, then I will look to fade next time out.
I don't have anything to add to that, but I will answer Garth's question here. He says Princeton running Merrimack out of the gym tonight. I don't think so. I don't think Princeton's running anyone out of the gym these days. Like that is not a very good, like if we're talking Princeton teams over the last few years, like this is by far the worst team they've had in like the last half decade. They have Dalen Davis has not played the last few games for them. I don't know if he's back here tonight or not, but I also don't even think it would matter. Merrimack, I just bet Merrimack over the weekend. I won with them. They played a MAC game, and God, I can't. It's escaping me who they were up against. But I watched the whole game. I can't remember who they were playing. Anyway, I bet Merrimack on Sunday, and they won easily. And the thing, like Joe Gallo is such a good coach. He loses. What was it? Bud Clark was the guy that he lost last year, and it's like, everyone thought, okay, Merrimack's got no shot. They lost their best player. And Joe Gallo is just like, no problem. I'm still going to play like this ridiculous zone defense. You're not going to score on me, and we'll just find someone else to put the ball in the basket. So, like, Merrimack, I think, is kind of undervalued in that regard. They are probably – they're as good of a coach team as you're going to find at the low major level. And they defend so hard. And I just, like – Princeton just doesn't do it for me anymore. Like even last year with Lee and Pierce, like they took a big step back, and now they're like far less talented than they were. Of course, Xavier Lee is at Florida. Caden Pierce took the year off, I think, to podcast. Actually, he just wants to he took the year off to preserve his eligibility so he could go transfer to a different school next year. And then, of course, Dalen Davis was kind of the best of the bunch that was still there, and he's been banged up. So no, I have zero interest in playing Princeton. The only thing I could play there would be Merrimack, but the only concern I have with Merrimack is sometimes they are a little bit inept offensively. So tough game, lean Merrimack. I don't know if anyone has anything they want to add.
Just real quick, Rob the other day mentioned, we shouldn't just look at the adjusted tempo rating at KenPom. We should look at average possession length as well. You talked about, Trigg, how Merrimack defends really well. They play hard on defense. I believe there's only 3 or 4 teams in the entire country that are allowing a longer average forcing opponents into a longer average possession length than Merrimack. So, and Princeton plays slow too. You look at their average possession length; it's on the long side. I don't know, Rob. I look at this total; it's getting bet up. I think it might be heading the wrong direction, actually, in this game. I would look at it under. I think this is going to be a rock fight.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We've talked about Merrimack before and playing them under. With Princeton for years, and to your point, Brian, real quick here about teams that force other sides to take a long time to get a shot off. Time of possession is dragged out. Merrimack being the fourth, forcing opponents the fourth longest amount of time during their possession. A lot of these teams that can't rebound, this just holds true for Princeton for years, back to Pete Carrill. They just, when they're on offense, they won't send a whole bunch to the glass. They're more concerned with getting back and getting into the transition defense and setting up so that you can't get any type of fast break points. I didn't look it up this morning, but there's analytic spots where you can look up fast break points against. And I would imagine, not that Princeton's a fast break team, but I would imagine teams like Merrimack and Princeton don't allow a heck of a lot of quick transition points, which 136.5. Let's say it one more time. We've talked about getting to 140 sometimes being very, very difficult. It could be very, very difficult here. I'm going to just take a couple more seconds here to point out what I think might be the worst matchup of the night, guys, between two teams that everybody knows. But this South Florida College of Charleston matchup is horrendous for Chris Mack and Charleston, in my estimation. Brian Hodgson, we've talked about it enough. Nate Oates' disciple, up and down the floor as fast as we can, as many possessions as we can, wear the other team out. And Chris Mack, always been more of a methodical coach and trying to change that Charleston type of characteristic. For a long time, Charleston was a team that would do the same thing up and down. But being the Belmont guy that I am, I saw that game the other day, and Belmont ran Charleston out of the gym. If you can shoot half a lick, you're going to score on Charleston. I go back to a game earlier this season where Richie McKay's Liberty team put 90 on Charleston. And we all know Liberty doesn't go up and down the floor, but they're effective shooting the basketball. They shoot it really, really well. South Florida is kind of a combination of both. And maybe that Utah State game that we talked about the other day, guys, where South Florida, I thought Utah State was the right side. They weren't. It might have been the day with Jordan Adam when he was on. I think it was my leg of the parlay. It just didn't work out. South Florida looked really good. It's a team that's developing. I don't know if I'd rather play team total over 88.5 or if I'd rather lay the number with South Florida, but the number's getting out of control now because people have taken this thing like, letting fishing line go to a shark, just let it run. I think I'd probably prefer South Florida to get to 90 in this game.
Yeah, I think South Florida. I think Charleston and Chris Mack are in trouble this year. Mr. Dean looks like he's done for the year. He was Charleston's best defender, would have been one of their better players this year. He's been out since the Drake game. I believe he's done for the year. They've had Jalen Counter missed the Evansville game. He was back, played 20 minutes against Belmont. But again, Connor Hickman missed time with injury. So they've been very banged up to this point in the year. But Dean is their best guy on the defensive end of the floor. So granted, like we talk about injuries and it's like, at some point they are going to be what they are without him. Like he's been out for like 4 or 5 games. But I just think there's still like, you see the Charleston name, you see the Chris Mack name, like the assumption is, oh, they'll be pretty good. They'll be pretty competitive. I think this team's going to have big time issues. Like they're going to be a big fade for me once we get into conference play because I think they're going to be mostly overvalued against other CAA teams. Like you said, Rob, the number, I guess the secret's out that South Florida is pretty good and Charleston's a little bit banged up because this is 15. So I think if I'm you, I would look more toward the team total. That's an awfully big number.
Yeah. I just want to throw a few more into at the gun here, Trigg, before we recap the parlay for those who are tuning in late. I think Yale has no problem scoring on Albany. This is another day game. Didn't make the chat. I know people get interested in day games. I think Yale team. Rob can maybe throw a thumbs up or something if he agrees. I think Yale team total over is the way to go in that game. Albany. They foul
terrible,
a lot, and Yale is very good at getting the ball inside. So I think it's all you talking about horrible matchups on the slate. I think Yale is putting up a big number on Albany, and then against Fairleigh Dickinson, one of 2 teams in the country that has not covered a spread. The other being
we're
the
losing
Oregon
you,
Ducks.
BP.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Really?
we're.
No.
Yeah,
well, then who cares
you
what
look
I have
like
to say?
Your connection's not great right now because you look like an oil painting and we can't hear what you're saying. I don't know. You're like, yeah. So you're like,
am I back? Am I all right?
You are all right. We have to wrap it up because it is we're up against it. But I do agree with you that Albany team is atrocious. I have no problem. And yet Yale will run away with the Ivy this year. We are at the gun. I'm going to recap the parlay right here. We have Purdue team total over 81.5. That's Rob's leg. I'm going Norfolk State plus 27. That's an early tip. And then we've got Brian Power going Marshall money line on the parlay. Purdue team total over 81.5. Norfolk State plus 27. Marshall on the money line. I've got to calculate it. Probably going to be like plus 540 with that money line. I will do it when we get off camera because it's 11 o'clock. We got to go. So we will see you guys in the morning. More full court press. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you guys tomorrow.